And then on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being totally stress-free, I'm awesome. Where are you? 1 being I'm kind of off the charts stressed. And then 1 to 10, 10 being I feel really dropped into what's most important to me and connected to what's most meaningful to me in my life. 1, I'm like completely scattered all over the world. Where are you? And then when you're done, just let yourself settle. Close your eyes, plant your feet. We're just going to find an easy breath. And if you've been working with a particular breath that you want to drop into, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to encourage you to use just an easy, natural inhale through the nose, the slightest of pauses at the top, and then a longer, fuller exhale than your inhale. And see where in your body there's an opportunity to soften. Some of us that might live in how we're holding our hands and feet. You might find that the breath can smooth out congestion we're experiencing through our chest, opening up through the rib cage. Continue to allow that exhale to be a little longer, a little fuller than the inhale. That space as we release, let go, turn over, actually draws our heart rate down, relaxes our nervous system. Let's see if with your breath, no efforting, other than directing the breath to the space behind the eyes, can you soften the physical space around the eyes, the set of the eyeball in the socket, and then the energetic space in between the eyes. This third eye center, our center of intuition and inner knowing, connected to the pineal gland. And taking the breath through the nose. Open the mouth wide, move the jaw side to side. And as you soften the jaw, maintain a slight space between the upper and lower teeth. Rest the tongue to the space where the soft palate connects with the back of the upper teeth. And just notice what you feel. Your tongue softly landed. This is an endorphin release acupressure point. Also is thought to relieve physical discomfort and pain. And notice if there's an opportunity to lengthen the spine. How does that shift your capacity for breath? Breathing in full, circular, slight pause at the top, and then that long, full exhale. And using visualization, see within you your own diaphragm. You can feel into the space that is in between the lowest ribs and that soft tissuey V that arcs up towards the sternum. As you breathe in, notice how the diaphragm might feel like it's moving down. And as you breathe out, that lift at the diaphragm back up. Just feel that space. Energetically, this space, the home of the solar plexus, or the seat of your own will, determination, and fire. And so, a repository of energy that you can ignite by drawing the breath in, directing it to the soft tissuey space between the lowest ribs. And as you take a breath in, lengthen the back of the neck. Feel the back side of the crown lift up towards the sky. Ears pull from the shoulders as the shoulder blades drop down and hug in towards the spine. And maybe notice the interconnectivity of the movement of your shoulder blades as you integrate with the engagement and enlivening of your abdominals. No efforting. Just can you feel that symbiotic relationship of shoulders engaging as you sit tall and strong, and the belly lifting up to support a long spine. Just that subtle action of lengthening up through the spine, filling yourself full with breath, a way in which we might ward off fatigue, midday slump. And moving out of a static position, drop your left ear to your shoulder. And inhale, lift the crown of the head tall again. Lift up through the pit of the belly as you complete that inhale. And then on your exhale, right ear, right shoulder. Really slow. Take the full length of the inhale to draw tall, coming up and out of your sit bones. And then from here, keep that lift, but tuck your chin into your chest. Drop down. And then open back up tall. This time, take your right hand to the outside of your left leg, just a little tiny spinal twist, rolling, send the chin over the left shoulder. Stay here as you breathe in, lift up. Open mouth sigh as you deepen your twist. And then relax back to center. One full breath at neutral to lift the crown of the head high. Soft exhale, fuller than the inhale. Counter twist, left hand to the outside of the right leg. Wrap around, send to the right chin over the right shoulder. When you take your next breath in, lengthen up, lift through the pelvic floor. Open mouth, sigh as you exhale. And then neutral on your breath in. Rest your palms face up in your lap. You might notice that just naturally, the back of one hand connects to the palm of the other. Both palms are stretched towards the sky, thumbs touch together. This is Zazen Mudra, which is a hand position. Very commonly used in meditation. It's a position of openness and receptivity. And so consider in this moment an intention. What is it that you are open to or curious about? What are you ready to receive? Very simple question of what would you like more of in your life, which is happening in this moment. And then together, take a full deep breath in. Open mouth, sigh out. And you can open your eyes as you're ready. Take your time. And then while I have you in this space, just quickly framing against those questions, 1 to 10, 10 being, I feel totally capable of being focused on a single thing, present. Where are you? 1 to 10. And then 1 to 10, 10 being completely stress-free and calm. Where are you? And then 1 to 10, 10 being, I feel really connected to what's most important. Where are you? That's helpful. Perfect. Beautiful. So, so that was a more traditional guided meditation. And I know some of you are playing with some apps that offer a lot of guided meditations like Headspace. And there's lots of them out there. The most important thing with guided meditation is the most prolific style of meditation, by the way. But the most important thing is that you can tolerate the voice and the message of the person speaking. So looking around, if you find some that you're like, all good, just keep searching, because there are some amazing teachers out there that have some really fabulous tools that you can use. And guided meditation is really valuable because it does some of the work for you, right? Like it's helping you to just keep coming back because you're being cued to do it in some way, shape, or form. I'm a big lover of guided meditation for getting out of our head and down into our body. So I really love teachers that get you into a somatic body experience. That's really reminding us that we're more than just this kind of cognitive space. So, oh, thank you for that. It was really sweet. I appreciate the comment. So I have some things I'd like to talk through with you today. We were going to talk about meditation as a tool for productivity, and I have lots of opinions on this. And before I dive into that, I'm just curious to know from your practice over the course of the last couple of weeks, what's working well, what's not working well, or kind of what questions you're like, I just really need some input on this.
Come on, people.
Yeah, Laura, Christian.
Yes.
Well, I'm definitely a lot weller now. So
Awesome.
you mentioned, and I missed last week, unfortunately. I'm glad to be back this week. I don't remember in the first week that, I apologize if I did, the time when you mentioned to raise your tongue to the soft palate. So that's farther in the back of the mouth, correct? Not straight up.
So it is to the connection point between the back of the teeth, the upper jaw set, and the soft palate. It's where they connect. So the tip of the tongue is actually kind of going forward at a 45.
Yep.
That soft palate spot is an acupressure point, and it's used quite often by people that are in professions where they're trying to just quickly soothe nerves. And did anyone feel that when you did that? Could you feel an endorphin release? Anyone have that sense?
I wasn't doing it right, so I didn't.
I don't know if
I
I
think
was
I did
doing it
that part
correctly.
right,
Now,
so I-
now that you're explaining it, I don't know if I did it correctly.
Yeah, so there's a acupressure point that is right where the teeth connect with the upper palate. That's where you just rest your tongue. And that subtle connection. Acupressure is really amazing. There's all sorts of points. Like if you're a headache person, there's a point right here on the thumb, right? There's lots of things that you can do that are like to relieve stress, but that's an easy one because you can do it and nobody knows.
Thank you. One more, if I may.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing in the breathing in, holding, and then releasing longer, that there's just a natural tendency for me on the shorter inhale to have it almost be like a rubber band release of more air than I would normally breathe in, which sort of allows me to hold it more and then release more. So
Yeah.
That's
So you're finding, Christian, that when you say there's a rubber band, do you mean like you're breathing in and then what's happening for
I mean,
you?
during the in breath, it's almost like just a release, and in it comes, and it comes in real quick. And
Oh, yeah.
quicker.
Yeah.
And then and it seems natural that that's the case. It's really not natural, I'm finding, to do the release longer. It takes some concentration to do that, but there's zero concentration on the in. It's just a whoop, just fills up.
Right.
Okay.
So there's multiple ways to use your breath. If what you want to do is to create an energizing effect, you lengthen the inhale.
Okay.
It actually, your heart rate goes up. So it's an activator. When you exhale, your heart rate is falling. And so for those of us that tend to have a longer inhale than an exhale, right? It's just that's actually, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just a way to actually literally consciously harness the capability of your breath. And then an equanimity breath, right, is equal parts in and out. So it's really knowing what is the effect you want to accomplish, and then do that. And working with the inhale, exhale is a really easy way to do that. And for most of us, what we need is to decompress. Most of us don't have a lot of trouble amping up. And so just working with that longer exhale, and it can be helpful too, Christian. I find that some people, if they're struggling with maintaining that longer exhale and they start to feel like they're kind of running out of breath, is to start to work with an open mouth sigh. And that is a very useful way to just feel like you're in control of the breath.
Got it. Thank you so much. Just a last comment to open the floor back. I did mine standing, and found when I was doing the hand holding, not putting them together, but the suggestion that you had, that they felt like one thing. I felt energy between them.
Yes.
And yeah, and since I was standing, the work of the turning with the shoulder, that was very, very powerful.
Yeah, good. I'm so glad. So you can do some of that movement before. I'll try to come back to this in a future week, but for a lot of us, there's something helpful about moving through some stagnated energy or some anxiety before we come to our seat. And so a little bit of like subtle movement, not like big. I put that in the email last time about yoga. People are like, I do yoga. I'm like, yeah, so do I. And it's not meditation. But a little bit of movement can be really valuable to start to just get that energy moving through you. That's all we are really mass is just energy slowed down, right? That's all we are is. And so kind of getting unstuck helps us to unstick mentally, emotionally, and energetically as well.
Well, if I could introduce, so I might have missed some of those movements because I think I fell asleep. And, then all of a sudden I had like a jerk, kind of like when you wake up, like it reminded me of my younger days falling asleep on the subway.
Yeah.
Where, I was saying, jerk and wake up because you don't want to fall asleep on the subway. Kind of, so
Yeah.
I definitely went into sort of, I guess I'll call it a trance, if you will.
Yeah. And I love that word for it, actually, Harvey. Trance state is one of the stages of meditation. So when we talk about meditation moving towards the state of transcendence, which is in most teaching the kind of the goal, it's like I can get beyond my human ruminations and remember that I'm a spirit having an incredible life experience, and that reframes everything that I might choose to do, say, or think, right? And so that transcendence, but trance is on the way to that. And so that, to me, I might have shared this with you all in the first week, but I've taught a lot of yoga in my life. It's like a little passion hobby of mine. And I always giggle because I never have women ever fall asleep in Shavasana, and 70% of men will fall asleep in Shavasana. And it's just like they have access to deep rest in a way that women don't have access to deep rest. So I really acknowledge that as like a gift.
Well, that's because the women are always taking care of us. They can't go.
Oh, there's no rest. We have to worry that you're falling asleep on the subway, and we have to rush in and save the day. Yeah.
My wife stopped letting me take my young children to the movie theater because I would literally pass out cold. And my son would be walking around the movie theater. So I don't know what it is about men, but I guess, we see an opportunity, we take it.
Yeah, exactly right.
My husband would fall asleep in every one of our children's orchestra concerts without fail. Without fail, he's snoring right next to us in the seat.
Just meditating, Catherine. He's just meditating.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a little bit different kind of question. Can I ask that next, Laura?
Yes, please.
When you were saying for the opposite, if I do, when you were answering Christian's question, if I do if I feel like I actually need to bring some energy to a Zoom call or speaking or something, sometimes I'll do things like if I'm speaking in person, I'll go in the bathroom and I'll stand in the stall and I'll do the power pose. You guys know that, you put your hands on your hips. I'll do that. And, I have some affirmations I go through my head to kind of get in a frame of mind, but it sounds like doing longer in breath and out breath would be a good accompaniment to that. Is that what you're saying?
For sure. And you can guide when you're facilitating meetings. If you're noticing creativity slumps or energy is slumping, you can take folks through a breath. You saw Christian just go like this a moment ago. Arms up above the head also is a way to just naturally energize the body. That's why when runners are always taught like to get their arms up at their heart level, because it gives them full access versus dropping down into a more restful kind of hip level. So yeah, all of those things are really useful. And then full body shaking is another really, really valuable tool. And animals do this all the time, full body shaking. So those are some ways to really kind of create that, like that energetic kick. But for sure, that longer inhale is a really natural way to do it without, full body shaking in front of an audience.
Right. And I'm not going to do that because Alan posts the stuff on LinkedIn.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Oh, I got some good ones when your eyes were closed. No, but it's interesting because I never even knew that was because my partner would call me Rocky sometimes before a presentation because I would literally I'm standing in my corner and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is my thing. Just let me just shake it out.
Yeah, your body knows. Your body knows. And that's just a connection. The fact that you could just intuitively know that and just do it is A, courageous, and B, it's a connection with your body. I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people have kind of lost that body intelligence because we've been conditioned out of it. And then we also don't want to do anything that anyone would think was weird. So we just kind of like freeze up and we're all stuck and congested in ourselves. And then we try to step on a stage. And I mean, we're not natural. We're not moving naturally. Our speech isn't natural. So all of those things can be really valuable.
But when you're doing that kind of shaking, is it that you bring in your blood to the tips of your body? I know, like when I'm playing tennis, a lot of times I'll kind of shake my hands a lot to get, you hold the racket sometimes so tight. You want to get the blood down into your fingertips where you have a better feel of, what's happening. And is that the shaking you're bringing?
Yeah. So if you watch what animals do, like if an animal is being attacked or under pressure, it takes off, right? It runs. And then once it's safe, it'll oftentimes go into a hiding space and just shake. It's finishing its nervous system reaction. So when we panic, or when we have a nervous system attack and our sympathetic nervous system activates, it's sending all of the blood into our extremities, and it's an overload situation. And so the shaking is just a reharmonizing. So it's exactly what you're talking about. It's just the opposite of that level of activation. It's trying to redistribute back, because you all know that, I mean, you probably have experienced this personally. If you're really, really stressed and you eat, your stomach gets upset. And it's just because you're not able to digest in that moment. Your nervous system is sending all of the energy to your feet and your hands because it thinks it's under some sort of attack, which it's clearly not. But the brain doesn't know the difference. So yeah, thank you for that.
So Laura, is it from the animal shaking perspective? Is that helping metabolize the cortisol?
Yeah, that's a great question, Christian. I actually don't know now that you say that, I'm going to make a note and look that up. I mean, it would make sense to me that there's some processing.
Anecdotally, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laura, it's Jeff.
Yes.
I would say at least 6 to 8 or 8 times from the probably shoulders up. I probably like twitched like at least 6 or 8 times.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Some people's bodies just do that. It's when you get into that deep relaxation state. People will have kind of like that little twitch sometimes. Or you heard us talking, like, I think last week we talked about like this sense of almost like I'm falling out of my chair. I think it's just deep relaxation, and it's just muscles working themselves out. So if you go from a state of kind of engaged shoulder, neck tension state to where you're really relaxing, it's just your body, I think, working itself out.
I guess that's a good thing then.
I think it's a good thing for sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we do that before we fall asleep, we'll twitch, you'll feel that with someone, and it's still in that state of, they're still awake, but there's a shift in the level of consciousness that's happening. It's kind of entering that dream state.
Right.
One of the things that I wanted to mention for anyone that's struggling still to kind of figure out, where am I going to fit this into my day so that I can see what it would be like to have a regular habit? Is anyone still struggling with that? I shouldn't say still. Brad, yeah, cool. Yeah. So this vexes seasoned meditators. I mean, like, this will still be what I'm struggling with, is like, well, when am I going to do this? And one of the best things that I know, particularly when you're trying to build the habit, is to take something you already do every single day in your day and marry those two habits together. So if you brush your teeth, right? And so I'm going to meditate every single time when I get ready to brush my teeth. And we just know that those two things are linked together. So that's a really easy trick if you're finding you're getting to the end of the day and you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do that thing again.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I have, like, last week's when we did it, I was almost asleep. Right. I just felt my breath was right. Today I went in and out, and I was like, and just talking about the breaths and stuff, I was like, oh, that probably could help. But like every little, I'd hear a car go by and I'd be distracted, where last week nothing bothered me. Yes. This week I was all over the place. So, and I kind of do that when I've been doing it by myself. I'm like, some days I'm focused, some days I'm like, all right, get me out of this chair. So I'm still, you know, it's, I don't know, but the breathing sounds like it will help.
I think bringing some, either using guided meditations, adding some meditation music to the background, or counting your breath. If that doesn't, I don't particularly love to count my breath. So, but some people really find that valuable. But the other thing too, Brad, I'm glad you said that, because this is a reason why we stop meditating, is we think it's not working. But really it is working, because there's more to you than just your brain. Like your heart is beating right now and you're not having to think about your heart beating. Your mind is probably just oftentimes going to be thinking, but the rest of you knows what's happening with meditation and is receiving the practice. So if you can disassociate from it as an entirely like, I couldn't get there, right? Like I wasn't able to get, that's not what's happening at all. It's just your mind wasn't there that day, and it will be maybe tomorrow. And then with practice more and more, you'll have that conditioning where you'll get there. So, but yeah, I have days when I sit there the whole time and I've like solved the world's problems by the end of my meditation. I'm like, I mean, I have it all figured out. And I'm like, well, what, I just wasted that, but you really didn't. You still did your meditation, and it's cumulative. So just stay with that.
Well, in these particular sessions, we have you as, we'll say, like an anchor, if you will, that's bringing us through the process. Yeah. And when we're home alone, we're kind of, you know, so I think either some kind of music, or I'm sure there's probably a tape of somebody,
yes,
you know, bringing you into the state that you want to be in.
Yeah.
Because here we're listening to you. So by listening to you, it takes a lot of our thoughts out of our mind.
Right.
Sitting there by ourselves, we have our thoughts in our mind, and sometimes they're hard to get out.
Yes, yes.
Hence why you need to hire Laura as your private.
Yeah, and there's something about
what a team.
I know. There's something about public accountability as well. Like, you know, like I'm not just going to get up and walk out, because you all know that I got up and walked out. And when I'm doing my meditation on my own, you don't have a clue if I got up and walked out. So there's a discipline element to this practice, and a real commitment to what am I actually accountable to, right? And so that just takes that's like exercise, that's like eating well, you know, like that just takes a little bit of choice making and clarity around what your why is. Why do you want this? I mean, like maybe it's just enough to say, I don't want to be I don't want to be off the charts stressed all the time, or I don't want to be reactive in my relationship all the time, and I want to be more mindful. Great. Just connecting with that why over and over reminds us why we're really here.
Catherine, where'd you find that journal?
So I saw a friend I follow on LinkedIn, and she said that she couldn't find a journal that had all the things that reminded her. So she made her own, and it's just a print on demand that she put together. So I'll find the link and share her name. What's funny is the pages, it's not very beautiful on the inside, but it's got lots of lines for writing. It's got these little boxes where you say that you did exercise, affirmations, gratitude, meditation, and reading.
Yes.
So I think she's mirroring, she doesn't call it Miracle Morning because that would be plagiarizing, but I think she's copying the all the elements of Miracle Morning.
Yeah.
The Panda Planner does almost the same thing. It's got every date, the time that you've meditated with a checkbox and what you're grateful for and things.
There's also your handy dandy devices, which in so many ways are ruining our brains, but can be very helpful for setting alarms. And so if you look at my alarms, there's like 5 of them set to go off throughout the day. And they go off at the times when I know I'm most likely to need some help. And they just chime. And that chime reminds me to take 5 minutes of breathing well. Sometimes I don't even interrupt what I'm doing. I just breathe well. 5 times during the day, I get that interruption. So those kinds of little hacks can be helpful for our feeble humanhood.
I found it's interesting you said that. So I've been setting my alarm again for, early morning like I was doing before COVID. And I find at like 4:45 to like the 5:15 in the morning range, it's dead silent, Brad, because like you, I have the worst, I could be sitting here and I hear clicking over there and I am completely out of the game.
Yeah.
I could hear, a cat meowing, 5 houses away, and now I'm more intrigued with that. So I find, that there are I'm trying to adjust my day around it because I am getting a lot from it.
Right.
And I almost feel guilty now. It's almost like working out. If I don't at least, walk during the day, I'm really angry with myself.
Yeah.
And, my wife can't have me, during the day. I'm yelling at everyone to stop doing what they're doing, for me for 10 minutes so I could, relax. That's not a realistic ask.
Yeah.
Well, and screaming at people right before meditation probably isn't the best preparation either.
Yeah.
I'm like, will you shut up? I'm trying to meditate here.
I know. Yeah. I used to hide in my closet when my kids were little. I was like, just maybe they won't find me for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which they do, but.
They always find you.
So a couple things, meditation and productivity, and we're at 2:40 and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And I just want to share a couple thoughts on this. So, and I want to talk about creativity and collaboration when we're together in another session, but a couple things to think about around productivity. So oftentimes we think about productivity as the efficiency to get more done smarter. But what meditation can do is it's really teaches us how to quiet our minds and our environment so that we can discern, right? We can see what's most important, which it gives us the ability to cut out like a laser what's of low importance and high urgency. And so for a lot of us, when we look at our day, we're like, I did a lot of stuff today and really am not sure I moved the needle. Like when we get so busy doing all of the things that we've not actually done the work that's most meaningful. And so what I use meditation for often is, I think I mentioned this last week, is I actually have a daily planning process where I actually have it's a twice annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, and it's super fast, but it's my way of making sure I don't get lost in all of the things and I stay connected to the impact I want to have in the world and all of the areas of my life that are important. And so on a daily basis, I'm sitting down to say, what are the most important things? I use mindfulness as a tool going into that, and I'm much more intelligent at making those choices. So that ability for most of us to cut out what is of low importance and high urgency so that we're not just on call to the world. I don't want to be on call to the world. And using mindfulness as a tool. It's also a great tool to teach your people being whoever your people are, right? Your teams, your family members, your kids, like it doesn't, whoever, but really helping them use mindfulness so that they can make really self-intelligent decisions around what they give their time and energy to. And then the other thing that meditation does is a lot of us spend a boatload of time preoccupied. Mental tapes running, we're going over a conversation that happened, we're irritated with something that happened and it keeps happening. And so we keep talking about it, and we waste a lot of time in those kinds of self-rumination activities. And so that meditation can be a tool to disrupt those habits and to make different choice around them. It's a way that we start to catch ourselves. So I have a client who is a partner in a really big investment firm, and there is a lot of discord between he and his other owner partners. And I mean, every time I'm with him, he is just so preoccupied by this. Like he can't even focus on the things that are most important to him because something has happened in the last week that he can't get past. And we do that in big and small ways in our life. And so if we can figure out how to say, I'm willing to give this much energy. It's a conscious choice. And then I'm not willing to give it any more than that. I can start to redirect my time and energy. And those kinds of things are so emotionally draining that they fatigue us as well. So they don't just suck up our time. They like really wear us out. So that self-awareness around changing our habits, our mental tapes, and then disrupting our patterns. And the other productivity boost for a lot of us who are leaders of people is that we start to see what negative habits we have, sometimes well-intentioned, where we are over-supporting, over-serving, right? Creating codependence, saying yes where we should say no. And we're taking on more than what makes sense. And we're not really helping anyone in the process, even though they're oftentimes super appreciative for it. And so meditation is another way in which, that's another way in which meditation can really help us become more mindful. And I really try to remind myself all the time that every single time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to a series of other things, and being really clear on what it is I'm saying no to choose consciously. And I can't do that if I'm just racing all the time and I'm just taking the next thing on and I'm in that kind of rapid fire urgency mode. I just perpetuate that with everything I do. So using meditation intentionally for that, that's where those alarms throughout the day can be really valuable, versus just doing a big block of meditation once, is to take 5 minutes, 5 times a day. You don't even have to stop doing what you're doing. Just breathe better during that time. And you'll start to find it's like, oh, there's more spaciousness here. There's more spaciousness for conscious thought and conscious decision-making, and then conscious leadership. Like how would I show up if I was really here for the highest and best good of the other individual? Well, I probably wouldn't take their stuff on my plate, right? And or I probably wouldn't say yes where I should say no, or I probably wouldn't over support versus empowering. So that can be another way that it can be, for I think for leaders in particularly, a very valuable productivity tool. So using meditation as part of your planning process, both in terms of what you're going to do, but also how you're going to relate and show up, I think is one of the most intelligent shifts we can make. And we all know how to do this, right? We set strategy for our businesses. We have goals that we're setting for ourselves. And so what if we inserted mindfulness as part of our decision-making process? What gets better potentially in that? What would go away? And really thinking about it that way. And then the most important thing is teaching it, right? So when we've figured out how to do this stuff, if we can teach other people to be outcomes focused, what's most important today, to be purpose aligned, right? What's the impact I most want to have, to focus on progress versus perfectionism. So to break those habits, and then to really prioritize and be strategic over blocking and tackling and doing every shred of admin stuff that comes up. Are some of the ways to think about that as a tool for productivity. So I'm going to pause because I know I raced through that, but I wanted to make sure I gave you at least a lens through which to think about how to optimize your own resources, which is really what time is. It's a resource you have, as is your energy, a resource that you have, as is your team. And so really thinking about how is it that I'm optimizing my resources or my allies to help me live the most impactful life in a way that's positive.
I think that's such a great point that you bring up, that people feel like they have to get the full block in, where you can be doing it intermittently throughout the day, which I find is most helpful. Because look, I could do it, 5 o'clock in the morning, but by noon I am berserk. I'm at going from a 3 to a 10.
Right.
And, for those out here that say that they can't, I think it was Jason Higgins, the former Navy SEAL on V50, who posted, and it really resonated with me. He said, for those that don't focus on their wellness, eventually will be forced to deal with their illness. Mm-hmm. Or focus on their illness. It was, you
Yeah.
get the gist. And, I just think it's worth everyone's time. And again, it doesn't have to match up with what I do or with Laura does or Anthony or Kath, or anyone on here.
Right.
And don't feel like you're being graded on it. It's really how you end up feeling after it. And you'll be able to gauge that after, I guess, practicing it. But,
Yeah.
I just think it's so super important because what I found, it's really helping me. I'm not there yet, obviously, because I still go off the handle, but, it's definitely, and it's even helped me with running because like you said, I
Mhm.
focus on the breathing, I focus on the movements now because it all is intertwined and there really is a formula for this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just conscious movement. How do we move consciously through the world? And probably it's stark, but it's true that organizational health is dependent on individual health. And as leaders, if we're leaders within our organizations, we have the capability to having mass impact, either to the positive or as collateral damage. And so really remembering that we're setting the tone for our own organizations. And, sometimes just like I know for me, when I would walk around my building and all these people, I'm thinking I have responsibility. And I can be not just a fabulous provider of great jobs and opportunities, but boy, what if we could do something that makes everyone better at living their lives and happier at home? And it's a big cycle because that pays back everywhere.
Absolutely.
I guess what we're alluding to is the stress factor, and as leaders, if you will, we're all faced with stress, but are we creating stress for the people around us while we're dealing with our own stress, or are we as leaders eliminating or dealing or I guess you want to say controlling better, or the stress that we're all going to confront regardless of who we are or what we are, and it really all boils down to is just how we handle it, and and how we relate to other people when we're in a stressful situation.
Right.
So it's great, Harvey. It's perfect what you were saying, because when you're a leader, you're not leading others. You're also leading yourself, and you need to lead yourself in order to lead others. I heard that from someone at some point, but it was like the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard that, and Laura, what you're talking about is definitely a movement that's getting greater and greater and greater. I met a gentleman who was Scott Shute, that was in global operations at LinkedIn, and he changed his world of what he does. He's now the head of mindfulness and compassion programs at LinkedIn.
Yeah. LinkedIn is a super progressive company, by the way. Like they're doing some phenomenal cutting, as is Google. Google's mindfulness program is a state-of-the-art model for companies all over the world. And they wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't financial return. I mean, like, let's be honest, like they really wouldn't be doing it unless there's financial return. But they're seeing so many other benefits. There's a great book that came out of Google's institute called Search Inside. If anyone wants to read about the application within the business environment.
I think we've all experienced it, whether it's a leader or even in your family. I remember my father was a staunch Marine, and then for the first time where I saw him crumble at something, right? I mean, that affects everyone in the family because this one is always even keeled. And we all took on that stress and that anxiety that he was expressing.
Right.
And I just know, from watching, my employees, they're waiting on every word I'm saying on what's, especially when the pandemic hit.
Right.
We had a company-wide, call to put everyone at ease that we were keeping everyone on. But until, they saw the demeanor of my partner and myself and, heard it in our voice, these people were terrified of what was going on. And if we just went on there like, oh my God, sky's falling, I don't think that would have been so helpful and productive for my company. So it's, I mean, like you said, we have to be super mindful, even in the house. You know, I'm very careful on what conversations, what clients I speak to, because I don't want my kids to start, you know, oh my God, what's going on? You know, like, don't worry about it. So,
Yeah, there's a big distinction between being empathetic and commiserating.
Yeah.
And just circling the drain with someone. Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are people and personnel that love to commiserate too, that
For
get
sure.
off on it, you know?
You always find good people to commiserate with.
Yeah.
About habit.
Yep. Yeah. So only homework is to keep practicing, like really commit to the practice. Try if that idea of creating the little, like setting your little alarms, if that sounds like, oh, that could be interesting. It's, for me, it creates a no-brainer situation. So maybe try that throughout this week also. And then we actually are not together on Monday. That's our off week. And we'll be back together on the 16th. So you have a couple weeks. We'll be like old pros by the time we're together next.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And if you fall into something, you have Laura's information, and you know, again, feel free.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait for this. And you know, I can't thank you enough, Laura, and I can't thank you all enough for taking an hour out of your day.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
our
you, Laura.
benefit.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
week.
Take care.
Cross
Thank
the
you.
country, Laura and Ellen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cross the country. Be well.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.